who are blind, anything like that. They are in the market for your services. And we just kind of teach businesses how to take those calls and how to make those calls. You don't need to have special equipment at all. Gone are the days where you have to have a TTY in your office to be able to communicate with the deaf. That's what Maryland Relay is for. So next Thursday, we're going to be talking about how your business can get involved and be reaching out to these communities.
Awesome. Well, Jenny, for those that haven't heard you talk about Maryland Relay on our other programs, if you can give us a brief overview, and then I'm really excited to hear the deaf history tidbit that you're going to provide to us.
Sure. So for those of you that are not familiar with Maryland Relay, we are a free public service for Maryland residents who have difficulty using a standard telephone. We are under the Department of Disabilities. We are also providing not just the services, but we provide equipment through our equipment program to anyone that qualifies. We can provide specialized equipment like caption telephones, amplified phones, large button phones, things like that. So typically in my job, I travel throughout the state of Maryland talking to anyone who may have difficulty using a standard telephone as a result of difficulties with hearing, vision, speech. We also work with folks who have mobility limitations. Perhaps they're not able to pick up a telephone. We work with individuals with cognitive disabilities, as well as individuals with memory loss. We are also big supporters of caregiver groups as well. It can be very difficult when you're working with someone who is just struggling to use the telephone, and we can be a great resource. So to get onto my Deaf History Month fun facts, many of you are not aware, but National Deaf History Month is March 13th through April 15th. So it's kind of a weird configuration, but there's a reason for that. On April 8th, 1864, Abraham Lincoln signed the charter for Gallaudet University in Washington, which was the first school for the advanced education of the deaf and hard of hearing in the world. On March 13th, 1988, you may remember that there were protests going on at Gallaudet University. And the reason for that is that they were bringing on a new president of the university, and the students wanted a deaf president. Whereas the president that they were bringing on was hearing. They succeeded in having I. King Jordan named the first deaf president of Gallaudet University. And basically what that he became was a symbol of self-determination and empowerment to deaf and hard of hearing communities around the world. Another fun tidbit that I'm going to let you know about are some famous deaf people you may not realize. Rob Lowe. You may remember him from the 80 movies, and he was part of the Brat Pack. He is completely deaf in his right ear.
Wow.
Holly Hunter, who is an actress who starred in The Piano. She is profoundly deaf in one ear from about with mumps during childhood. I bet you didn't know this one, Steve. Stephen Colbert. He is also deaf in his right ear. So wow. Obviously, most people know that Beethoven was completely deaf for the last part of his life. And people are familiar with Marlee Matlin. She is an Academy Award-winning actress who starred in Children of a Lesser God. And some sports facts real quick, and then I'll let you move on. So we're getting ready for baseball season. So William Dummy Hoy was the first deaf Major League Baseball player. He hit the first Grand Slam home run in the American League and created the hand signal system that's still used in baseball today. So when you see coaches going, back and forth like that, cool. He created that. And finally, Paul Hubbard, he was a Gallaudet College football player. He played quarterback on its first football team in the 1890s. And since the players were deaf, Hubbard devised the huddle system for calling plays so that they could use American Sign Language and the other team couldn't steal their signs.
Wow.
So,
these are great, man. I am telling you, Jenny, I love this. This is fantastic. Actually, just like last week when you were on, we've got a question or a comment for you from Ellen Davis. And she says, I would love to speak to you. I renewed my ASL learning with a private professor to help my clients that are hard of hearing or deaf. Thank you for what you do. So
that's wonderful.
this is great. Well, thanks again. And I put the link in for the, and somebody just said, could you give the date and time for the Maryland Relay event? Yes, it's next Thursday, I think, March
Yes.
25th. And it's at noon. And I added the link into chat there. And so we'll be looking forward to seeing you next week at that event.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I hope everyone has some time to join me because it's a great service and it's going to help you reach out to communities you may not be thinking of.
Excellent. All right. Well, as Jenny drops off the screen, I am bringing on now Robert Bullock and Abby Bullock. Abby Bullock Tinsley, our elder law discussion panel members. Welcome, the two of you. I'm really excited to have you on.
Hi, thank you for having us today.
Whoops, Robert, unmute so I can hear you.
That should work.
There we go. Okay, great. Okay, so for those of you who are not familiar, last month we kicked off several series: Meet the Aging Life Care Manager, Meet the Elder Law Attorney, Meet the Move Manager. Next month, we're going to have Meet the Daily Money Manager, where we spotlight 2 or 3 professionals in a specific profession. And today we're going to get to meet 2 elder law attorneys and have an interactive conversation with them. Before we jump into the conversation, I like to break these down into 3 rounds. First round is we get to know our attorneys. Second round is they share with us words of wisdom and things for us to think about. And then the third round, you in the audience, you guys are in control of this. We respond to questions and comments that you have. So if you've got a burning question or comment, type it in right now using the Q&A box right below, and we'll make sure that we do our best to get to that. So because we're in round 1, let's get to know the 2 of you a little bit better. Robert, I'm going to start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What led you to become an elder law attorney and start your practice? And then we'll meet Abby.
I was afraid that's what you would do because last week you let the lady go first. So I want to be politically correct, and Abby and I discussed that's what you're going to do. So if I could let the lady go first.
Oh, okay. Well, Abby,
Sure.
let it rip. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Abby. So I would never have imagined that I would be an attorney working with my father. After I graduated from college, I was working at a rehab center for a period of time. And I ended that position and I was searching for a job, and there was an open position at EDLC. And Robert asked, or as many of you that know Robert, he didn't really ask, he told me that I needed to come into the office and help out while I was searching for a job. So when I got here, I was assigned to a Medicaid case as a case manager. It was initially only going to be temporary, and then I never left. I really enjoyed the work. I enjoyed the client community. And I was a paralegal here for about 6 years. And then I made the decision to go to law school. So I went to George Mason, stayed local for law school, and worked part-time here at the firm while I was there. And then I came back, I returned to EDLC as an associate, doing probate, asset protection, estate planning. And it's been quite an experience working with Robert. A lot of fun. I've learned a lot from him. It's been awesome being trained by him.
Wow, that's I think that's every parent's dream, to be inspirational to their children and to have them be able to tolerate us in a work environment. Now, you refer to EDLC, that's the Elder and Disability Law Center, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, great. And this is a good segue to Robert. Robert, I guess you founded EDLC. You want to kind of tell us how all of this came about?
Yeah, but that's the nicest thing she's ever said. So it's good that that's recorded. I add to that one piece. This is sort of like a therapy session because I'm talking to someone I've known for 20 years, but there are a lot of people that I don't know. So I got to keep it within the lines. Abby developed an ability in Medicaid, particularly DC Medicaid, and she grasped it early. And also there's another associate, Abby Wolf, who also is doing Medicaid, who is coming back to the firm, by the way. And Abby has a pretty good grasp on Medicaid and has been able to bring it down to people level in terms of explanation, understanding. Rather remarkable skill. That's why she went back to law school, because she really needed that, and then came back and has picked it up again. The firm started in 1999, and Steve, you and I go back, and I could do anecdotal stories from the beginning of time, so we'll keep it focused. I started by accident in Medicaid. Somebody asked me to deliver a lecture to a bar association. I was watching my son play baseball. Steve and I had a lot of exchanges.
No, wait, actually, let me interrupt you. So you were a practicing attorney.
Right.
What type of practice?
I was a good point. I didn't want to go back that far, but I was a trained litigator. Did all sorts of things. Had a remarkable career before that. I represented the American Sikhs in the 60s. Did a lot of trial work, commercial work. I had, and that's important, I think, with the firm here. I had a broad-based experience doing almost everything, all the way to criminal sentencing and complex commercial trials. And I was trained by someone who was aggressive and really was a winner. That was his job as a litigator, to win. And I came into elder law in part because in Abby, what year was Stacy born? 1979. Abby's sister, she has Down syndrome, and I got active in special ed, and it was World War III. And special ed, like Medicaid in this era, was new then, and I was in that pioneer area of IEPs. They were new in 94-142 litigation, and we ended up suing the school system 3 or 4 times on behalf of my daughter. So I got mad, and I really never calmed down after that, just moved on to elder law. And elder law occurred because someone asked me to deliver a lecture on Medicaid to a bar association in 1999, the Alexander Bar Association. Did that. Gene Coffey was a legal services attorney. He's now the head policy guy at CMS. And the firm started, and we met with remarkable early success, and it kept growing and growing and got bigger. And we had a Virginia practice, DC practice, and Maryland practice, and it's evolved and has survived the COVID year. And it's been a remarkable run in terms of where we are and what we do.
Great. Well, the questions are already starting to come in, but before we jump on any of these questions, I'd love to sort of hear from you. What are you seeing out there? What are you thinking? What's in the landscape of the world of elder law that we as older adults, their loved ones, and providers in the audience should know about?
Abby, you want to take that one first?
Sure. So just a couple things. First, there's a lot of misinformation out there about Medicaid and Medicaid eligibility. And some people think that, the state will come in and take assets. And I think that it's important that when people are in that situation where Medicaid may be something that a family needs to think about, that they seek the advice of an expert in the area so that they are able to get the correct information about Medicaid and plan accordingly. In addition to that, in this last year, with a lot of people being isolated, seniors that were functioning okay before COVID, due to the isolation, a lot of them have deteriorated, and family members haven't been able to spend as much time with that family member. So we're seeing a lot of children that are reaching out to us because this last year they've seen a dramatic change in their parents.
Now, let me just kind of jump in here because this is something that I've observed, not just with elder law attorneys, but with all professions serving older adults, is that you're experts in Medicaid and legal planning and elder law, but oftentimes you become like social workers for your clients to help them through these challenging times. And I think COVID is no exception. So in other words, if you help somebody with their estate planning, they may be calling you up to offer advice on solutions on how can we deal with this isolation. Is that correct?
That is true. And we have part of our practice is life care planning and management, where we really try to put a team together around the senior so they're able to support them in all sorts of aspects of their life. So we may be the first call, and then we help coordinate other services for them if it's something that we ourselves wouldn't provide.
Cool. No, great. Robert, what's on your mind these days?
I think Abby's right on point, and I wasn't allowed to look at the list of providers because I would pick out people who I knew and talk to them before. So I know there are many people that I know and some that I don't know. But the group that I do know was many of them were there at the same time at the beginning. And what has happened is that what I've concluded is that this generation is now faced with the tsunami of not being prepared, and with children in a chaotic situation when one parent goes down, and all of the service providers are under that kind of stress. Not only the elder law bar, but what we've tried to do is, I think the difference is they're going to call the care manager first, as we learned yesterday. They're going to call the old estate planning attorney, but what's happening is that taking care of anyone who's going through this elder process is a job. And the kids or the spouse are faced in the way that I talk about it, it is a job. And it's a new responsibility that they're running into, and it's a tsunami right now. There's no question about that. Every service provider out there has got to be going like this. And so how you coordinate that job and who's accountable and responsible and how it's going to be done is where I find we had to move the practice to make it life care planning and management, because all of this stuff has to be put together. And I guess the difference is we're licensed and fiduciary, so we're finally accountable and responsible because every service provider is doing this. You need the care manager, you need the consultant. I just learned today that I'm going to get our people educated on this, on speaking to people who are hearing impaired. So it's that multitude of services that the field has really changed to. What we try and do is a collaborative effort, because you've got to know probate, you've got to know Medicaid, you got to know guardianships and conservatorships, you got to know taxes, you got to know finances, and you got to know litigation, because no children are fighting. All children come to us happy and more than willing to pay every dime to the facility and not keep a dime.
Oh, yeah.
And the other side of that, Steve, is how aggressive the nursing homes have become. You got to be familiar with the new Maryland statutes that allow the nursing homes to sue if a child doesn't pursue a Medicaid application quickly. And that's litigation. So an elder law firm can do many of these things. What I've tried to do here is get all that expertise under one roof and be able to call out to the care providers that we need and get them on the team. And it is a team responsibility.
This is great. All right. Well, I say we jump into some of these questions. And I know we had a question before the event that I emailed to you guys related to Medicaid. I'm getting some other Medicaid questions. Galera says, if you run out of resources and get Medicaid while you still have a home, Medicaid would not claim some of your assets after you pass?
What do we know what jurisdiction you're referring to?
Galera, if you can type into Q&A what state you're in, that would be great.
Earlier, Steve, or is this a new question?
No, this is a new one. I just figured that, oh, she's in Virginia. Galera's in Virginia, and she says, if you run out of resources and get Medicaid while you still have a home, Medicaid would not claim some of your assets after you pass?
Sure. So every situation is a little different. So I'm going to try to answer this question, but based upon the details of the circumstance, it may not be 100% accurate. So in Virginia, the home is countable after 6 months. So if you initially it is an exempt asset, but after you've been out of it for 6 months, it's countable. So it has to be sold. So you wouldn't be on Medicaid and die with a home.
So somebody in Virginia can apply for Medicaid while they still own the home, but then if they're in the nursing home receiving Medicaid, they have 6 months to liquidate and
6 months from moving out of their home.
Okay.
It becomes countable.
And then will those assets go to paying for the nursing home, or how would that work?
So then that would be when an exhaustion plan would need to be put into place, or asset protection at that point, because they will have assets that would put them over resource for Medicaid.
Okay, so Galera is saying, so if they don't sell the home, Medicaid will put its hands on it.
So they will determine that you're ineligible for Medicaid because you're over resourced.
Okay. So now this is actually a great example that I'd love you to jump into. This person here who's clearly looking, they're planning for the future. They're thinking about the future and applying for Medicaid. If they walk in your door and share this this concern with you, are there techniques and things that you can do in advance to help this person if they need to apply for Medicaid in the future?
Can I check that one out?
Do you want to take it?
Yeah, let me take that one.
Okay.
Because I actually have an answer.
Okay.
I think Steve, that's a real good example of the issues that elder law attorneys face. Medicaid and listening to last week's with Evans was just superb, by the way. A job well done by everyone who participated. That's not the way to do it. And that's not the way that we do it, because Medicaid is a regulated industry. It's rules. And all of the questions are asking you, well, what about that rule? And what about that rule? And if I keep my house, what about that rule? And I'm not, there are hundreds of issues that need to be addressed. What we do is a consult first with the family, because they need to be trained. Are they going to be partners in this? Are they going to learn the Medicaid rules? Are they going to rely on the elder law attorney? Because Medicaid is a whole turnover of a way of life, and you're changing people's financial status. But it's much more than that. It's you're separating a family, you have children involved, you have first marriages, you have second marriages. There's a more global approach. And this is what I tell clients in a consult. It's not a show and tell to answer every question, because Medicaid is incredibly complicated. And Evan was talking last week about different Medicaid rules. Abby is talking about housing. What about annuities? What about gifts and so forth and so on? And the buy-in is the family that's going to run that, or the child that's going to step up and say, I'm going to learn about Medicaid and help the family readjust. So we rather insist on a training process where the person first comes in and gets an understanding of what this is all about. As I said, it's a job.
Great. Okay, and Galera has another follow-up question. So related to Medicaid, and this is one that's actually come up, and I think it sort of ties in with that previous question, is what if somebody's intention is to never leave their home, that either they or their parent has said, don't put me in a nursing home, but they run out of assets and they need Medicaid? Is the only option that's out there a nursing home if you're Medicaid eligible, or are there some other resources?
So, and this sort of ties in, Steve, to the question that was emailed ahead of time, is in Virginia, I think that question was Virginia as well. There is what's referred to as Medicaid waiver. And Medicaid waiver is a program that will provide services in the home. There is an income cap to the waiver. And if you're over that income cap, it can be more difficult to get services. But there is a way to age in place in your home. The eligibility criteria is similar in terms of resources for long-term care in a nursing home. Just to follow up on what Robert said, how we operate is as at a consult, and we do really try to educate our clients on sort of all of the options that are available in their situation and how things can be protected or exhausted based upon the goals, the individual goals of the client that we're seeing.
Yeah, and I think this is good. This is the second time that we've done this, and I think that we need to sort of have a disclaimer maybe before these elder law sessions is that what our goal here is to just give you a general idea on different things, but you really have to sit down and talk to somebody. And now this is an interesting thing. I just glanced at it in chat from Audra Bakaitis, and she says, if you're preparing for Medicaid, how can you afford a lawyer? This could be a naive question. And thoughts on that? I hear that question all the time as people will say, I can't afford an elder law attorney. I'm, spending down my money faster than I ever thought.
Well, I think the answer to that, Steve, is that's exactly why we do a consult. It's a minimal cost. It's educational. We look at the assets and we look at the problem, and we give the client some sense of what it's going to cost. And you heard Evans talking last week about his levels. Everybody's got their own system, and I'm still vital, and I know the field. And if we're not the fit, we're gonna send them to the right attorney that fits their budget. But you can't determine what people can afford or what they can't afford until you look at the whole situation. And they may be coming in about an issue of capacity and or estate planning issues that are critical to the elder. So they're not all Medicaid cases.
I think the other thing is that you can sometimes solve simpler Medicaid cases where someone does not have a lot of funds in the consult setting. So, and a lot of times we'll meet with clients and the representation will end there because it could be just going through the application and explaining the application process, because there are really several components, but part of it is the planning and the implementation of the planning, but then it's the application process and the back and forth with the eligibility worker. So, and if you don't do planning, then nursing homes right now are about $12,000 to $14,000 a month. So it's probably worth it to spend a little bit of money on a consult to be able to get some of that planning.
Yeah. And out of curiosity, do you ever stumble into, I know that legal aid is out there and there's some, legal programs for older adults. Do you ever work with those for clients that may be impoverished, or how does that work in the legal infrastructure?
Actually, Steve, there's a number. I work in coordination with AARP, and I got a card here actually with their number on it. It was in my drawer. 202-434-2120. That's 202-434-2120.
Okay, and what is that? That's AARP's
Legal Counsel for the Elderly.
Legal Counsel for Elderly. I'm typing it in there.
Yeah, they have numerous departments, and landlord tenant and a Medicaid and a Medicare and so forth, and they're good, and a lot of them are volunteers. They have a very low fee schedule, if at all, and then they have a referral system where they will contact us on primarily DC matters and whether we can work it in. So we try to coordinate that piece into the give back, which every service person out there does that I know.
Yeah.
And the other piece we will generally consult with is parents of children with disabilities. We'll try to extend as much consideration as we can under those circumstances in a consult to help them out. So AARP is a good resource.
I am going to bring Barbara Sullivan, who I think you know, Robert. She's got her hand raised. Barbara, if you want to unmute your mic, but while you're doing that, I want to read you a question that I think a lot of the providers in the audience are going to be interested in, and I hope I'm not putting you on the spot on this one. And this is from Aziz Nawabi, who has a home care agency, and he says, can I be sued if a client got COVID and passed away under my care? Even though we don't know exactly how the patient got COVID, they went out on their own to weddings and funerals. What are your thoughts on that? And I don't know if that's something that you can answer, but I think it's a question that everybody in the senior living provider community may be curious about.
Okay, I think that's now, and that's a good example of how different that question is in elder law to can I save my house in DC under certain circumstances? So the audience can get the breadth of the area. And my answer, my litigators, now I'm gonna put on my litigator's hat, but they wouldn't let me keep my hat here, so I can't put it on. But my litigator's hat is, or as my mentor, Steve Glassman, who recently passed away, would answer, you could sue God if you want. The question is, can you get service? So in asking the question, can I be sued? Anybody could sue anybody for anything, unless the lawyers are constrained by a rule that says they have to have merit to the claim. So the answer to the individual's question is, yeah, he can be sued. Whether there's liability or not is a completely different issue.
Mm-hmm.
So he's asking for a legal opinion. Is that facility accountable for whatever it was with the COVID? And a good lawyer will answer, I don't know.
Okay.
So it's got to be researched, but the person can be sued. Anybody can be sued for anything as long as it meets a certain ethical standard that a lawyer has to adhere to.
So, but as I'm thinking about this, one thing for providers to maybe think about is consulting with your counsel in this new landscape. We never knew about COVID a year ago, and perhaps sending something to your families so that if somebody is going to take a legal action against you, that you can communicate to them that you're like a disclaimer type thing. Would that be, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm just a business person thinking that if you showed good faith, it might lessen the impact of a lawsuit.
I didn't understand what you just asked.
Okay, let's bring Barbara Sullivan on. Barbara.
Speak up.
I'm here.
Okay, Barbara's got a question. Barbara?
I do want to give it a side. Susan Rodica's loving this. Go ahead.
Okay, but Barbara Sullivan is on. Did you have a question, Barbara?
Yeah, I just put it in chat. Hi, Steve. How are you? Robert, I met you years ago when I was a director at a village in Northern Virginia. So as we emerged from this pandemic, and I represent about 350 villages throughout the United States, nonprofits are picking up a lot of the existing home and community-based services that existing aging organizations haven't been able to do, i.e. the AAAs and whatnot. And it's a great opportunity for partnerships. But the age-old question is reimbursement from Medicare or Medicare Advantage programs for some of these services that our volunteers are doing. How do you see that? You know, I know the new administration, Biden administration, is looking at this through the administration on community living, but I'd like your take on it to see. I mean, right now, some of the programs, the Medicare Advantage programs, are reimbursing for Uber and Lyft, but it's really these grassroots organizations that are doing a lot of the work. So this, I don't know if that's on your radar, but I just thought I'd throw it out there.
Good question and comment. Thanks, Barbara.
I think the answer to your question is going to be the administrative people that fill the slots at CMS and all of the agencies that are funding. It's the the next generation of people who are dealing with individuals with disabilities, and it's a much more favorable environment coming in than obviously is going out. But that's going to all be at a regulatory level that's going to be negotiated, I think, between the relevant stakeholders. So it's a much more favorable environment. It simply depends upon where the funding is and how the lobby is going to get the results that you're talking about.
Yeah,
that would be my take on it.
Cool. No, really good. Okay, let's dive into these questions because we got about 20 minutes and hopefully we can get through this pile. So the first is from Joe Sperling, and he says, do you agree that long-term care protection from some form makes sense for most people? It may be a traditional long-term care insurance or one of the several hybrid plans that are being used. Considering the substantial risk of needing care and the cost thereof, do you advise your clients to explore, long-term care insurance or similar coverage?
Absolutely. Clients that have, they can afford it, clients that have long-term care insurance just have more options because Medicaid only covers long-term care. And so what some people don't realize is that there isn't a payer source for assisted living. So if someone needs some assistance, but is not, in medically needy to the point that they need long-term care insurance can really help to pay that cost of assisted living or memory care in assisted living.
Can I add to that, Steve?
Sure.
It's a very good question, and and that's yet another piece of the softer part of elder law, if you will, and the more paperwork and litigation. When they come in, who's read the long-term care policy and understands the coverage? Because we'll hear calls, Abby, oh, I've got 3 years, or I've got 5 years, or I've got unlimited. And my next question is, who has looked at the policy? Part A. Part B is that one of the things about life care planning is most people don't know that under a long-term care policy, if you become disabled of some sort, you've got to get someone to deal with that. You've got to get an agent. So what we do as part of life care planning is when we see a policy, we immediately get their paperwork for getting an agency so someone can talk to the policy holder. And my third point is directly on point with long-term care. I think, Abby, the best we find for it is those people who say that they want to stay at home for as long as they can. Because if you do the economics well with the family, then you're not forcing the children to come home and provide the services. Your long-term care policy may be paying for that secondary care you need at home. And that is part of the broader picture I keep referring to of why you need to learn the job that needs to be done.
Great. I've got two questions on reverse mortgages, one from an anonymous attendee and the other from John Jerome, who says, can a reverse mortgage be a viable way to help somebody age in place? Any thoughts on that?
You want me?
Whichever.
This is father-daughter right in front of these 200 people that we don't know. The reverse mortgage is a source of funds. It's an emotional hot wire. Everybody has an opinion about a reverse mortgage. So I don't want to alienate one group or another. It's a source of money that can be very effectively used to keep a person at home, a parent at home. Abby, would that be fair? And then what do you hear from the children?
That they don't want to do the reverse mortgage because they want to inherit the house.
Right, and that's a good example of when you do a consult. And I'll ask all the professionals out there because we have these discussions with the care managers, is who's your client?
Yeah.
Who are you talking to at the consult?
And actually, this is what came up yesterday on the Aging Life Care. So the Aging Life Care managers are very disciplined and adamant that even if an adult child comes to them, that the client is the older adult, that they're working on for the older adult, even if the older adult isn't the one paying the bill. And we all have seen these dynamics and the varying factions that exist in a family. The way I refer to long-term care insurance, reverse mortgages, and all these things is that they're just spokes in the wheel, and the wheel is all of our potential assets and resources.
I think the wheel steel, Steve, I remember your name now and then, is really what I guess ego included, what I've determined the firm is doing is life care planning and management. This all has to be pulled together by somebody. For a group of from the 60s and 70s, and I've been told to stay within the boundaries, but we're not prepared. And I'm blessed with having the vitality to be part of the next generation, but that's what we're trying to put together, is to get everybody prepared. Otherwise, you get chaos, and that's what every provider out there is faced with right now.
We got another question, and I know this is one that you're very knowledgeable and passionate about, is can you talk about special needs trust and pooled special needs trust for disabled, single people, or elderly so that they can protect eligibility for Medicaid? Can special needs trust help if someone inherits assets, including real estate and money?
So in DC and Maryland, a pooled supplemental needs trust can be used for people that are on Medicaid and over the age of 65. So a lot of our clients are on Medicaid, and they end up getting an inheritance, and then they need to exhaust that money. A pooled supplemental needs trust is a great tool to do that. It allows them to have the money available to them for needs that Medicaid will not cover. Unfortunately, in Virginia, if you're over 65, you cannot, you can put it in, but it is a penalized transfer to transfer that kind of money into a pooled supplemental needs trust. Robert, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Was the question over 65?
No, they didn't. They didn't distinguish age on this one. Just that
eligibility for Medicaid was the question. So it could be someone that was younger. So if you're in Virginia and you are on Medicaid and you're under 65, you can create a pooled supplemental needs trust.
I think the teaching moment, because there are a lot of attorneys who specialize in this, we do supplemental need trusts. I was in it at the beginning because supplemental need trusts are not referred to in the federal statute, but it was passed when I was here, and I actually talked to the people who wrote the statute. But they're a major weapon to allow individuals with disabilities to maintain wealth. It's the only piece in our social fabric that we allow that group to maintain wealth and yet be on public benefits. But understanding it is a process, once again, of what job do you have to do and how much do you have to learn. Tremendous assets for children and adults with disabilities.
Great. Okay. Let's see. Barbara Sullivan says, what about PACE programs? And if those of you who are not familiar with PACE, I put it in the, I put a link in chat. It's the Program for All-Inclusive Care for the Elderly, and it's administered through CMS. Do you guys have any experience with PACE?
I do not, Robert.
I was there when it was first introduced with the trial programs. It was successful initially in some trial programs. My best recollection is it's not working well, but I could be just dead wrong on this. I diverted into one big case for a couple of years when PACE evolved. So there are people out there, there are attorneys out there who are more familiar with PACE. And if that person wants to get in touch with me, I'll get them the answer. Okay,
great. And this kind of ties into the next question. Just confirming the jurisdictions that you guys practice in, but then they're also asking, are there elder law attorneys all over the country? And how would one get in touch with them?
I think Evan answered that last week, but I'll repeat. The national organization is the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys, and you can go on their website. Evan mentioned there's a group of about 500 of us that are certified elder law attorneys, and he talked about the ordeal you have to go through to get certified. I was blessed with reaching that level. And then the next level is the Council of Advanced Practitioners, which I'm a member of. And then there's the Virginia Academy of Elder Law Attorneys. There's the Maryland version also. So you can get on any of those resources and look for elder law attorneys. You can look at AVO reviews and see what people say.
And then, but you guys do DC, Maryland, and Virginia,
yeah,
right?
Yes.
Okay.
We do.
Excellent. Okay, great. And I just dropped the NAILA link into the chat. And also, guys, I'll provide contact information for Abby and Robert. I'll provide the NAILA, the recording, the podcast, everything will be in a follow-up email to you all. Okay, Sandra Mobley says, Medicaid waiver, what is the income gap for Maryland? And is there a spousal income exclusion specifically for community options waivers?
Sure.
So I'm not sure I understand the question.
I told you not to send us hard questions.
Oh, okay.
All of a sudden, what was it? Read that. Somebody.
Okay, the question is about Medicaid waiver. So I guess the Medicaid waiver, that's where somebody is.
I think it's the income cap. I think that might be not. So it is $2,382.
Okay, so you.
I think she's asking what the income cap is.
Oh, okay, so somebody can have approximately $2,000 of income and still apply for a Medicaid waiver.
Correct.
Okay.
But if she wants to contact us offline, I might be able to answer her question more specifically.
Okay, great. Now, one of the things that I've heard, and again, I've talked to like the readers of our publication, they'll say, I've applied for Medicaid waiver, but I can't find anybody that will accept the waiver. Is there sort of a shortage in providers?
That's correct. There's a significant shortage in providers right now.
Okay.
And that field, Steve, the waiver field is yet, you can walk down that path for an hour. The DC waiver program, by example, every 3 or 4 years, it just went through one, changes their providers, and they went out and did new assessments of people and reduced their hours. And the only way you could object to that is file for a hearing. And we took out a lot of pro bono cases because the hearings are so time consuming and they're fighting about hours that are just critical to people with severe disabilities. It's a very difficult program to represent clients in. And as Evan mentioned last week, Maryland's waiver list, Abby, is 6,000, 8,000, but DC has a vibrant waiver program. And but remember, I think the key is in all these programs that you're in a regulated industry and there are rules and regulations, and to play on that playing field, you got to learn it yourself or get someone who knows what's going on. It's very complicated stuff.
Great. Well, here's a complicated question that I've heard quite a bit is, do you help clients choose a nursing home when it's necessary? And if so, what information do you use to determine a high quality home? A recent New York Times article called into question the CMS 5-star rating system.
So we partner with aging life care managers in terms of finding homes that are for individuals that need nursing home care. And we are familiar with many nursing homes, but we are not going out there every day to nursing homes where aging life care managers are. So we, on a lot of our cases, our clients, we recommend that our clients hire an aging life care manager, and then we work together with them to find an appropriate nursing home placement. And it changes. Some nursing homes that were, great and the care was great 2 years ago, now maybe struggling with a lot of turnover. So we really utilize their expertise in terms of advising our clients about nursing homes.
Great. Let's see. Ellen Davis says, can you talk about your thoughts on trusts to protect assets from a 60-month look back?
Robert, do you
It's a great lining up to torture me.
You're almost done here. You're almost done. The clock is winding down.
T-shirt that said source book that you used to go outside and go 25 cents for a source book. And now, what was the question again?
I got it. It's a great tool for the right client. As you know, there's the 5-year look back, and transferring assets into an irrevocable asset protection trust protects those assets after 5 years. So for the client that is planning early and comes to an elder law attorney before a crisis, it's a great tool for planning. So we use them with our clients and have been successful in eligibility with using those types of trusts.
I think the core of it is a gifting issue and the reporting period, and what people can walk away with is they're an anathema in gifting and Medicaid. So you want to talk to someone about if someone has a gifting plan or plans on gifting. The basic theory is if you've gifted it to someone and they didn't get anything back, you should have paid the nursing home, and they can claw back money looking back 5 years.
Great. And look at this. We got almost perfect timing here. I got one question left and we got 4 minutes to go. So someone says, can you explain and discuss accelerated death benefits for healthcare, both chronic illness and terminal illness? These are advances with there are advances with life insurance coverages that policyholder can use their benefits before they pass away, not just as a death benefit. I don't understand that, but I'm assuming you guys went to law school and you might understand it better than me.
So I think what they're asking is for life insurance policies that have a long-term care insurance rider, Robert, is what that may sound like.
It sounds like a product that is in a life. He or she is asking a specific question about a specific policy of some sort. So my answer is I got to read the policy to see what it says. But it is a tool that is used effectively and can be. Life insurance is one of those items you look at in life care planning and management. Steve, before you take the table back, I want to do two things because I know we're short on time. I want to say to you, thank you for holding on behalf of all the service providers. You've just done a remarkable job of holding this field together during crisis. I congratulate you. And
Thank you.
I'm sorry we can't share personal jokes in front of all of them, but the hair really looks good, and it's next for the Academy Awards. You're going for the next one. You're doing well, old man. You're doing well. And I do want to say that Abby did have twins recently. Not only did she come back, but she had 3 children in a matter of 20 seconds. And I just had to share this picture of her youngest twin. It's the cutest. So for those who know me, here's where I am. And my daughter is here. For those who don't know me, that's not bad. It's sort of cute. Okay. And
this is nothing better than, this is very important actually, is as we're talking to our clients is, if you can frame a discussion around grandchildren, you see the pride that Robert has for his grandchildren there. So for example, and I'll bring this up, this is a good one, a good discussion topic, is that, for example, somebody who's resistant to have hearing aids, because of the stigma, or they think it's for old people and they don't want to get them, is that if you say to that person, so you don't want to hear your grandchildren, it's an entirely different conversation. The grandchildren are the strings to all of our hearts, and it's great to see this. And we may never have a father-daughter elder law panel ever again, because I don't know if there's any father-daughter duos here.
You're almost right. The biggest problem with the twins is she's also an associate. So I gotta get her back. She came back 20 minutes after they were born. I didn't think it was unreasonable. And I make 10, 12 hours a day. So she never sees them. So it's all good.
No, that's great. But Okay, well, we are wrapping up. I think we covered a lot of topics and this has been fantastic. And I'm to the audience, I'll share contact information. I'll share the recording, the chat transcript. Don't worry, I'll give that to you. I want to thank you, Robert. It's great to see you. We used to see each other in person a couple of times a year, but if I can see you on Zoom, it's not as good, but it's always great.
Well, I think the only thing that the world out there doesn't know, Steve, is talking to Steve after 3 glasses of wine. we'll leave, and thanks again from all of us in the service community for what you're doing. I don't want to be too effusive, but
No, don't. Yeah.
They know.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for organizing this.
Oh, you bet, guys. Okay, well, folks, we'll see you tomorrow at a future discussion. And again, thanks to Robert and Abby, and we'll talk to you soon.